Thanks for tuning in to my latest video. As always, my name is Gordon Causey. If you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, I use the handle or the username Gordy Canuck. I will be uploading this to YouTube on Wednesday, the 4th of June. And I'm also planning to do a live stream, live and interactive, this evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, my time zone. You see the CN Tower back in the background there on the wall. Um, I live about 150 or so kilometers, about 100 miles from the big smoke of Toronto. I'm in rural southeastern Ontario. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about what I consider to be the weaponization of science, and I'm asking whether that weaponization of science, whether it's starting to implode, starting to cave in on itself. But before I get going, as is always the case, as I say, as most YouTubers say, you're welcome to, if you enjoy the content, I appreciate everyone who hits the like button. And of course, you are welcome to subscribe to my channel. Trying to build it up. Hey, let's see. Maybe I can get up around 2,000. Right now, I'm hovering in and around the 1,200 mark. So, get the endorphins in the brain, the little chemical reaction that you get when you're engaged with on social media is a little endorphin called dopamine, I believe. And before I really get rolling, I should throw out a disclaimer here because I have gotten into trouble with YouTube before. I have had videos taken down. I've had my account put on probation, I guess you would say, where I've been precluded from using YouTube for a week or more at a time. So I want to be perfectly clear as I can be, that nothing I say is to be construed as medical advice, and I do not present myself as an expert. I would ask you to weigh everything I have to say, to fact check everything, and again, nothing I say is to be taken as advice. I do not have a medical degree. I do not have scientific background per se. I did take some post secondary uh, university level science courses, but that doesn't qualify me as an expert in any way, shape, or form. I like to think I have a degree of critical thinking skills. You can decide for yourself whether you agree with that statement or not. I always appreciate the comments. I do read them all. I do my best to respond to as many of them as I can. But without further ado, let me get into what I wrote on my Facebook timeline. I will include a link to the text that this video is based on from my Facebook page. It will be in the first comment below. So uh, I am only now coming to realize the grip that science has had on our entire culture, and I have to be honest, on me personally. But if I'm going to write or talk about quote unquote science, it helps to have a definition for the word. Because for a long time, the word science, I believe, has been pretty much synonymous in our culture with the word truth. That is my opinion. We were hit over the head with it during COVID when the words follow the science became almost a feature of nightly newscasts or political speeches and government spokespeople, government health officials. Over and over again, we heard, we're following the science. And I believe that many automatically took that to mean we are following the truth. So when something was presented as science, or when prominent figures would say they were presenting science, it was treated as almost a revelation of the truth. Some time ago, I don't know when, probably a year or two ago, I came up with my own definition for science and I'll share it. And you can decide for yourself what you think of my definition and let me know in the comments. Do you think my definition is reasonable? And this is the way I would define science, that it is a process, a noun, and it is a process of rigorous study and investigation that attempts to establish facts. And after writing that out, I said, okay, let's see what Google has to say. So I did a Goog, as some say, I did a Goog to see what definition would pop up, and this is what Google provided. Noun, the the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. I think my definition that I came up with on my own, I think it's reasonable. I left out the idea of starting with a theory or a hypothesis, but I seriously wonder if that is really required. I mean, why not just start out by saying, I don't know what eating 12 bananas a day would do to a person, and then just test it out without any preconceived thoughts about what it might do. But I digress. That's what I do. The subject line of this, the subject of this video is speaking to the weaponization of science. So, has that happened? And I think that most reasonable people would acknowledge that it has. That's my opinion. The tobacco industry used science to sell its products, like cigarettes. Adverti- Advertisements had lab coat wearing personalities proclaiming that cigarettes were not harmful. Starting in the 1930s, doctors were actually recommending smoking for its health benefits. We've had science presented that has downplayed or completely ignored the environmental or ecological impact from the extraction of fossil fuels like oil and natural gas. I recall in Canada here, they had one grade of gasoline for one particular oil and gas company. They had one particular grade of gasoline that they marketed as being environmentally friendly. And I believe that most reasonable people look back at the scientific evidence that was presented and they roll their eyes. They look sideways at it. It is realized that tobacco and energy companies that they had a vested interest in weaponizing science in order to protect their bottom lines. These are typically publicly traded companies with shareholders, a board of directors, CEOs, and if the bottom line suffers, then the share price goes down, dividends are either eliminated or reduced, the boards of directors are replaced, the CEO can get canned, fired. But what about the pharmaceutical industry? Is it not equally a profit driven industry? Do pharmaceutical companies not have the same publicly traded shares, shareholders, boards of directors, and CEOs? If a pharmaceutical company's share price drops, would it not have the same impact? Do pharmaceutical companies not have the same incentive to weaponize science in the same manner that tobacco and energy companies have? Back in 2000, Pfizer came out with Bextra, which was approved as a safe and effective anti inflammatory drug. And that was according to the regulatory agencies and authorities after it had gone through what many perceived to be rigorous clinical trials. It was on the market for 5 full years before it was pulled off the market due to heart damage and deaths. And Pfizer has been cited by regulatory authorities as a repeat offender when it comes to things like withholding negative trial results, bribing medical professionals, and engaging in fraudulent marketing practices. But this stuff doesn't make the nightly news the way that the dangers of smoking or the environmental impact of fracking and trailing ponds at the oil sands projects. That gets a lot of news. But right now I'm sensing in the culture a bit of a shift. Nothing earth-shattering, I said a bit of a shift. Very subtle, but I am convinced it is there. A growing number of people are now willing to question things, to dig a little deeper and look at the potential for bias in research. There has been, I believe, a lot of blind trust. And I would argue that a significant number of people now are at least willing to engage in at least some skepticism. We just assume that all the injections we get, that all these injections were rigorously investigated against a placebo group. Now we're finding out, it's coming to light, that many, and probably most, but I won't say that definitively, a lot of the injections we've gotten, that they were never tested against a genuine placebo group. Instead, we're learning that one vaccine would use another vaccine instead of a placebo. So it wasn't a sugar pill or saline solution. It was one vaccine against another. Some, though, refuse to see any issue with this, and that's fair enough. And I would argue, though, that it's because they don't understand the purpose of a genuine placebo group. So they simply blindly accept whatever the pharmaceutical industry does, that it has to be best practices. And after all, that's what the pharmaceutical industry states in much of their public material. They'll say things like, after rigorous study using best practices. Oh, they use best practices. So why are some people willing to blindly trust one corporate and profit-driven industry, but not others? And try as I might, I can only come up with one logical explanation. Maybe you can think of others, and again, you can share them in the comments. But the only logical reason I can come up with is fear. Do we fear environmental or ecological damage due to exploration of fossil fuels? Yeah, I know a lot of people are concerned about it, but I would argue that fear over what we're doing to the environment and to ecology, that it pales in comparison to fears over disease and death. And the reason for that, fear is a monster. It can make people do things that no reasonable person would ever even contemplate. It is said that a drowning man will grab at any rope thrown to him, even a rope that has an anchor tied to the other end. And it helps that the level of scientific education is so incredibly lacking in much of the Canadian population, American population, probably even Western Europe. When it comes to the gold standard of clinical research studies, we're told it is a double blinded and placebo controlled. That's the gold standard. Double blind, placebo controlled. But a lot of people don't even know what that means. So when they hear that Pfizer destroyed the placebo group of their COVID vaccine trial, there are tons of people who don't even know what that means. Oh, big deal. So they just destroyed the placebo group. Aren't they doing best practices? All they know is that they're terrified of the prospect of struggling to breathe and being put into an induced coma before being hooked up to a ventilator. So terrified that they'll grab whatever rope is tossed to them, and they're not going to look and investigate to see if there's an anchor tied to the other end of it. There is, I'm going to wrap up now. There is, of course, an antidote to fear. And I'm here to tell you it is to be found in faith. But again, our culture has done a tremendous job of painting any person who proclaims a belief in Jesus Christ. Oh, they're an ignorant moron, ignore them. And all I would say is if you've gotten this far, and if you are inclined to read a message that can help to serve as an antidote to fear, I would recommend, many know it, the 23rd Psalm. And if you read that and you want more, and if you've never read the Bible, I would recommend the Gospel according to John. And then if you get through that and want more, go through the entire book of Genesis. Thank you for watching. That was the message I had, for lack of a better word, tonight, or today, or this afternoon, whatever it happens to be when you watch this. If you made it to the end, thank you. And the comment field is open as always. And again, likes and subscriptions always appreciated. So I will talk to you again later. And again, Wednesday evening, the same day that this is uploading, Wednesday in and around 10 p.m., I am planning to do a live stream, live and interactive. And what I enjoy about those is the chat box is there on the side. You can fill it up with your thoughts, your views, your opinions, your commentary. And I love the interaction. I love the engagement. And we can go all over the place. And I enjoy it a great deal. I learn a lot. And even if you disagree with me, you do not have to agree with me. I'm not, I hate fascism. I hate this idea where people put on, they express opinion as if it is fact. And God help you if you disagree with them. But anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again, hopefully. Good night.